Well, good morning. Good morning to all of you out there across the district, kindergarten teachers. Good morning. And I'm seeing head shaking. We're not quite on yet. Oh, hi. How are you guys? We have in our room today, we have Shaw and Young and Turnbow and Sonora here at the PDC with us. So I'm just going to keep talking. I may break into song. Anyway, welcome. I am so excited about this, guys. And I don't want you guys to be nervous today because we'll let Charlene be nervous for all of us.
Y'all are going to be nice to me.
Okay, now we're on. Well, welcome. Welcome to all of our kindergarten teachers all across the school district. This is a pretty exciting day for us to be able to provide professional development to every single kindergarten teacher all at one time. We've been learning about our reading units of study. Some of you have been already jumped in and have begun. That's pretty exciting too. We'll all be jumping in and getting started as soon as testing ends. So what we're doing today, we're going to learn how to plan as a team, as a grade level team, how to plan a lesson together so that when that testing is ended, thank goodness when the testing ends, we can all jump in and start teaching some reading units. You are ready. You are more ready than you know. So we're all going to hold hands and we're all going to wade into this reading units of study river together and we will be successful. So I am looking forward to today and this afternoon and all this week. It's pretty exciting just to do what we're doing. I don't know of any other school district in the state that is even attempting anything like this, so way to go. We're pioneers again, and I thank you for all your hard work. Right now, I'm going to bring on Charlene Horner, who is no stranger to any of you, and she's going to teach us today how we can build our units for us to teach in May. Charlene.
Yes, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hi, kindergarten across the district. I'm so excited for this day. This day has been long coming and lots of planning to be able to be here today. I kind of want to open up. Some of you know who I am and some of you don't know. I'm an instructional facilitator at Sonora Middle. I have worked with workshop teaching for over 16 years in some form or capacity. I've worked with schools in the refinement and the implementation process and been formally trained at the Teachers College. With all that being said, I'm letting you know that I'm knowledgeable about the workshop, but I am new to teaching adults live stream like this. So please be patient with me and throughout this. Hopefully today we can kind of work out the kinks and then it'll just run smoothly the rest of the week. So with that being said, I have, let me get my clicker, sorry. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, so the materials that we will need, and I think most of you probably already knew this or probably have already worked to gather these materials to be successful today. These are the way I've structured today is that I will demonstrate some teaching and then actually give you a long block of time to practice this work. This is demonstration teaching is what you're probably going to get your feet wet in May with. A lot of heavy, a quick model of how to do something and then giving kids the opportunity to actually practice that. So to be successful today, you'll need these items because you'll actually be doing the work. Rick Dufour from Solution Tree calls this learning by doing. So we will definitely be learning by doing this work and hopefully this work can be replicated throughout all your units next year. So with that being said, I have, okay, our goals today. When we were preparing for today, we wanted you to leave with an understanding of how to actually prepare yourself and your PLC as a team, how to teach just one unit in May. And to do that, we're going to practice two things. One, how to unpack one unit, and then we'll also learn how to plan for next week of instruction fast. And the reason why I say fast is one of the the biggest hurdles in this work is the time involved in understanding these units and planning for them. So for us to have a system or a protocol in place that teaches you how to plan for next week of instruction pretty fast and general with your PLC will give you more time to actually plan for your small group instruction, which in reality is the heart and soul of this work. Not necessarily the mini lesson, but actually the small group time. And if you can picture that smile face, that's that long block of time that you want to be responsive to your kids' needs with guided instruction or small group or one-on-one. So we'll learn how to plan for your next week of instruction, and we'll do this. We'll do this as a group, and then you within your teams probably will do this each week or something similar. And please know that we've worked through some of the kinks at my building, and then also worked with the Teachers College on some ways to do this pretty fast, so you don't have to maybe make the mistakes that we've made. So I consider it like a way that we can learn from each other. We'll also want you to leave here with some whole school systems that support engagement and independence. So we'll do that with kind of sharing some tools that might help you do this work and feel successful at this work. So those are our goals today, and I think that's important to always set our goals to know what we're hoping that we all leave with. The way we've set this up is in our schools across the district, you might have a chat monitor person that you want to give, like along the way you're going to have questions. I fully anticipate lots and lots of questions. So it was important that we set some structure up for you to be able to send your questions to us. So the way we've done this is the schools out here, if you have a chat monitor, you can give your question to that person, and that person can send that message to Megan Rojo is with us, and she's looking at those questions. And for me as a presenter, to be responsive to your needs, I'll work to look at those questions and learn and figure out ways to tuck the answers to your questions in throughout my training. And if it doesn't naturally work to tuck it in, if there's time at the end, I'll do it in isolation. I'll just answer some questions through isolation. If we run out of time, I'll definitely send an email personally to you. I feel like no question is not a good question at this point. But I fully anticipate questions, so please know that this is in place for you to do that. So to give a little background on where we are today. So to be able to get ready to plan for a next week of instruction or plan for a unit, we knew we needed all of you to be at a place that you had already kind of had time as a school or as a PLC to understand the Reader's Workshop process and where that fits within the balanced literacy and how that fits within your day. So that was, I assume all buildings had some PD on, what does research say that all readers need? You've had some time to understand the structure of the workshop. You've had time to maybe even kind of explore the tools and resources that come within your kit. All that being said, you're at this baseline level now that we're ready to kind of try this work. And so that's kind of the background. I needed everyone to be at that spot so we're able to just really dig into a unit. So how I plan to structure this, and I'm hoping this works well, especially with the live streaming. I'm going to call a school or a group of students or adults to what I call the carpet, and please excuse, I just use the words that we use in our classrooms. I'll call a group to the carpet, and what I expect others to do is just kind of like that fishbowl, like you'll get to watch, but you'll also be doing the same work that our friends will be doing here, but you'll get to do that on the out, kind of doing the same work but looking in. Same with the schools, like if this group is turning to page 2, then I would hope that you're turning to page 2 and you're doing this work, but you're also getting to look in. So we'll kind of work through the kinks, but what I'm going to do is invite a group to the carpet. You'll get to listen in and learn alongside us. That's where we are today. Okay, so I'm going to call maybe Sonora Elementary to the carpet today. And these are the tools you're going to need to be successful. You'll need your reading unit 1, which is, this is exciting, we are readers. You'll also need a writing tool. It can be a pen or a pencil, and maybe a piece of paper. And if you are a person who's a sticky noter, if you're a person who uses a pad of paper, if you're a person who uses a little, like a notebook, whatever works for you. So what I'm asking for you to bring to the carpet, 3 things: your unit 1, a writing tool, and a some type of piece of paper or so. And you may come to the carpet now, please. Thank you. And look how fast y'all come to the carpet. And y'all aren't fighting for spots. Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks. All right, nice. Writers and readers, I'm glad you came to the carpet so fast. I'm going to go ahead and set my timer because I'm going to try to teach you something today pretty fast, and I don't want you to miss out on any time of actually practicing this work. So I'm working to kind of keep my time in check. I'm going to set my timer, and if you don't mind just kind of keeping a watch at that, if I kind of only 1 more minute, just kind of, you don't have to yell at me, just just kind of show me a 1, and I'll probably I can read that that message. Okay, so I've set my timer, and writers and readers, I have to tell you something. I worked with my school about 2 or 3 years ago to implement Writers Workshop and then Readers Workshop the next year. And I'm going to tell you, the first time we couldn't wait. We opened our kits. It was exciting. It was like Christmas, the plastic wrap. We took it off. And then we went straight to this unit, or our first unit, and we turned to that first lesson. And we taught that first lesson, and we were like, okay, that went okay. Then we taught the next lesson, and we were like, I don't even really know what we're trying to do. I know the title is We Are Readers, and we quickly found out that we really didn't have any understanding of this unit. We quickly found out that if we weren't clear, our students weren't clear. We quickly found out that we needed to do something differently. We knew Lucy had told us to read the orientation to the unit, but we don't have time for that. Or that it's just not fun to do that. But we quickly found out we probably needed to do that. I see some friends out here shaking their heads. They've implemented this before, and they've maybe done a similar situation. They've opened, Missy is shaking her head, opened it, and didn't read the orientation. But today I'm going to explain to you that it probably is a really good idea. And today we're going to try this to tell you, we do this at my school maybe on an in-service day. And it was really nice these past 2 years that an in-service day kind of fell every so often. And so we were able to reflect on a past unit, plan for the next unit. Reflect on a past unit, plan for the next unit. And so we made sure that was on our agenda to unpack the unit of study that we were about ready to teach. We made time for that, almost like made it a non-negotiable. If we don't go ahead and get it on the paper, we kind of get to ourselves and say, oh, we'll do it later, and it never gets done. This past year, we did make that a non-negotiable to unpack a unit of study. So today I'm going to show you a way to do this. You can make this work for your building, but I'm going to show you a way that we've chosen to do this. If you've watched the orientation videos, Lucy talks a lot about a jigsaw orientation, and we do a jigsaw orientation. We've kind of tweaked it a little bit to make it work for us, but when you look at this, you kind of see that jigsaw orientation, how you can unpack a new unit of study. So I think with being understanding that we do this 3 or 4 times a year before your new unit of study. So we assign parts of the orientation, we read the assigned parts, and then each PLC member kind of reports back on what they learned. How this looks is we all have a piece, we read for 7 minutes, Then you report your part to us as a PLC, then you report your part. You only have 4 minutes, and you report your part to us. And so what we're doing is we're kind of getting that scope and sequence for the unit together collaboratively as a group, that we're all making meaning of this together. So within the 4-minute report back, you're reading knowing that you're going to be the reporter. We like to kind of say that because that's one of the things we say to kids, that your purpose for reading today is you're going to be a reporter and teach your friends about this unit. And then we end it with a whole class conversation, and this is where we kind of talk and construct the meaning of what all we just heard from our friends. I'm a little confused at what you had said. Can we kind of clarify how that fits in things? So we're going to try this work today. And for our active engagement, we're going to try this in a really small scale within our friends right here. I'd like for you to turn to, and Dr. Stoom and I have a book that you can borrow. I'd like for you to turn to the orientation to the unit. And for about 2 minutes, we're going to read this. And all while you're reading, because you know that you're going to talk to your friends about what you understood about your reading. And we'll just share out with our friends for about 2 minutes. But we'll read for 2, and then we'll share for 2. So this is just the orientation to the unit right here. This is just kind of the front matter. Lucy calls this the front matter before we actually dig into the components that are in this particular unit. So if you have a writing tool and you want to jot notes along the way, you certainly can. But if you're a person who highlights, that's perfectly fine too. So we may begin reading the orientation. About 1 more minute. And we'll stop there. So writers and readers, that was pretty fast, and you'll see that this is pretty fast paced, and this will get easier for us. Her wording will be similar across the units, and you'll be able to read those phrases a little bit faster each time. I'd like for us to just kind of engage in some conversation. This might just be a partner to my side or across from me, to just start with the conversation of, many people think, or I just realized. You can use this chart to push your thinking or your talking if you need to, or you can just kind of have a nice conversation. We teach students to talk in response to text, and this is one way we build that time in. Talk in response to what they're actually reading. So you may go ahead and turn to your partner and just kind of construct some meaning of what you've just read.
That's the longer part at the beginning.
All right, writers and readers, that kind of gave us a little bit of time to just kind of process what we're about ready to teach, and also sets us up for what we're about ready to read. I heard some things like, wow, I wish I would have known this, or I'm excited to see that we're going to do this, or I noticed that that was really fast to read that. Just good conversation to just create that community, because this work is not for the weak heart. This is going to require us to grow professionally. Thank you. Grow professionally together, and one of those ways is doing this work on a regular basis. All right, so I've been kind of given a little message that I have about 1 more minute, so I'm going to probably speed up my conversation with you. We're going to now do this work at a much deeper level. So we gave a shot at it, and y'all did fantastic. We gave a shot. Now we are going to actually do this work. How this works is one person in your group will read the intersection of the reading development. So this is later in this particular section. One person, I need 1 more minute, sorry. My timer went off. One person skims the bend 1 in the overview, one person skims the bend 2, one person skims the assessment portion, and then each person skims the getting ready and read alouds in 7 minutes. Now, please know that I've structured this thinking that maybe you have teams of 4. I understand some teams have more than 4, some teams have less than 4, some teams have other friends with them today, IFs or SPED or other people that are supporting this work. Just be flexible with us when y'all think about who's going to read what part. Please know that you're going to read this, understanding that you get to be a teacher. So when we finish reading, after 7 minutes, we'll actually build in that time for you to teach your friends. You'll have 4 minutes to teach your friends of the part that you've read. All right? So before I release my friends here, I'm going to just give my instructions one more time. We are working to construct a clear, coherent overview of this unit. One of the ways that we can do this collaboratively is we each read a portion of this overview. This is an example of how you could break this up pretty evenly. One might have 2 pages to read, one might have 1.5, but we're being flexible there. You'll read for 7 minutes, and then when the timer is off, then we will go ahead and move into teaching each other. The tools that you'll need, you might be a highlighter, it might be a person who jots along the way, whatever works for you, Okay, so these are the magic words that we kind of instilled with our kids K7 and can be 8 if you want to. Off you go, and that should signal that we get up and we actually move to our seats fast and fluently and begin this work. Us out here, I'd probably suggest y'all to turn off the sound, still be able to see us, but turn off the sound for about 7 minutes. We're going to be reading, it's going to be quiet, but you might just turn it off and then be able to see when things start turning back on. Does that sound all right? Okay, so off you go. No, you're good. 2 more minutes. Finish up your last sentence or so, and then we will move on to the next portion of this. All right. If you're tuning in, we're starting back now. Now that all of you have had an opportunity to read a portion of this orientation to the unit, typically, what you would see a teacher doing during that release time would be pulling small groups and conferring. But in this case, I made the instructional decision to let you read and process. This is kind of a mid-workshop point, what I'm saying right now. And what we're going to do is kind of this little tuck. It's important that we, as a collaborative culture, kind of process some things that we have just read together. And we're going to kind of build that into our lesson today. And what we'll do is maybe within your table or your group, you'll kind of have a timer, a person who just times us. So we have 4 minutes to kind of teach our friends about what you just read. All the while, what we're trying to do is kind of construct that overview of this unit. So it's clear to you, and then if it's clear to you, then it will be definitely clear to your students. But if it is not clear to you, we quickly find out that it is not a good situation for your students if you're not clear of how this unit unfolds. Quite honestly, this work sets you up to understand what the kids are actually going to be doing and learning in this unit, and kind of sets you up, kind of gets you prepared for what we're going to anticipate this work will look like. So what we're going to do is just out here, we'll turn off or you can turn the sound down for about 20 minutes, because each person in your group will be sharing what they have learned, and we're probably not going to have the conversation, the cross conversation, like a whole class conversation right now. We're just having people teach each other. If it turns into conversation, that's perfectly fine, but I've built in time in our lesson today to have a whole class conversation where we process together. So this is just teaching each other right now. So we will go ahead and begin that, and everybody just has about 4 minutes to teach each other about their sections, and you may begin.
he was young, you know, and he was just, familiar with books. So that's kind of what it made me think about. But one of the things that I thought was important, it said that our efforts will go towards making sure that your children all learn that reading is something they can and want to do. So I think that's what this unit is all about, is just setting that up so that when they realize that they do have reading in them, because they all come with reading in them, and that's what she talks about in here, is we just have to tap into that and say you are a reader, even if you're just reading the pictures, that you are a reader. So when they are ready to read conventionally, as she says, then we get into that next unit of superpowers, and they can start using that and can read.
I had been one that was much for that, and my first conversation for that, all about just giving them opportunity to read books. And then it says that they start touching on those concepts of reading, and then you read around the room, read around the building, and start learning that when you read your environment, you learn about the world that way. And then I have to do it again. So we're going to introduce the structure of what you need to do, and you don't do it again. And then reading too. So like they're not superpowers yet, but you're still
Mom was helping we just read to learn about the world. And what it talked about first was we're going to do the meaning first of the word. And like she said, it could be scary carry up, but they need to start thinking about that. And then she said, your groups, your child, what their interests are, and that we are going to forecast. So they're going to do all the
maybe one that's not even level,
so
that they just have those experiences.
about other
But of course, the ones who are ready
one
for
of the
that,
first things I really liked was, and I remember we used to do this where we labeled everything.
I had
Environmental print.
and this is moving into longer storybooks. But one thing I thought was interesting, it says that although you're moving into storybooks, you're going to, in your lessons, you're still going to be having your lessons. So worried about that, which I thought was interesting. It says they continue to read about the world books in each reading workshop. The goal for the workshop time is not going to be the storybooks. So I'm not sure if I'm beginning. Well, because I like them to flow. But I like things to kind of flow in there a little bit better. But anyway, one thing that I noticed in this, it says that in order to set this up, you will have to read and hold that book. So you need to have a whole bunch of books that it's on page 9. You need to have books that you've read about half a dozen times. So, like Billy Goat's Gruff, Harris, and those books, Sharon Green books. Well, Billy Goat's Gruff, you can see Billy Goat's Gruff was started. Billy Goat's Gruff was going to be a Sharon Green. No, so it's just old favorites. Well, some of those would work too, but the point here is that whenever they're starting to tell stories, whenever they're starting to tell stories, they put those over and over. Mine was about those parts of those parts that it's that's going to lend itself to the repeated patterns that they're going to see in those babies.
It makes me think
But
too
what I got out of
about
this was
when there are books that follow characters, because they can easily attach to maybe what I read.
and the whole time we didn't read the cat.
Franklin books or the pigeon books. I mean, you might have one pigeon book and it's going to have the same character in another book, and it's going to come down with the same pattern that they still could attach
I
to.
think the point is, no matter what book she goes over to read, and then they share storybooks. And we were just talking about how we start with reading the conventional books, however, this because even though they're not reading conventionally, and that's another thing that she's talking about, is connecting that phrase to the picture. So when they're on that page where the small really goes into the bridge, then they're using the language for that page, because it's talking about that they have to read the text off of the page, and that's going to get them to start filling out that print. So that they know that the print has some songs, because obviously they can't join any different part of the story, they're only doing and showing. So I thought that was, that was interesting, and starting to use character dialogue in the story, which which will then get their voice ready whenever they're talking about the feelings, getting ready to meet those characters when they're reading. She talks about how they're reading to sing, and whenever you're singing a song that you really know that chorus really well, although you might not know the rest of that, which goes back to that repeated reading or that who's that that kind of thing where it says say this part over and over again. And then she said that each one of these ends is containing some type of a celebratory session, and how important that is because it puts kind of a closure on it. Yeah.
I think that was she moves into reading and again, she's put the pages together and realized that pages are going to be read together. And then after we read and jot
So mom was about to say some.
and by the end of day one, the students started to know that words, not just the pictures. And we specifically did during the last lesson, when prompted by the Tom tab, they read each page from their lives about the world book during the duration. Then two, we're moving into the reader's read old favorite storybooks now. And some, we're just teaching them, some books are learning about the world books, and others are our favorite storybooks. In this, then the children are going to continue reading those learn about the world books to end each reading workshop. And the bulk of the workshop time will now be devoted to reading those favorite storybooks. And that was something that I had questions about when we did that stuff that anyone else reading. So we take one of
Then it went to
family and
concepts
others
about
reading.
print.
So
And there's concepts about checklist.
during the first part of the reading workshops, they are reading the Lily Scratch, the Weird Seed, and any other rich story books. Not just and they need to be books that you read at least a half dozen times. And it says to think about the reading workshop being divided into 3 10-minute long strips, a little bit for private reading books like through Billy Scrub, the next bit for partner reading of those same books, and then another chunk of the world books at the end. And that can be private and sometimes teach your kids to have.
What I pretty much saw
Ideally, our
was
schedules will have the ones that balance those for our reading workshop and realizing share, but it would be, they will also be better at part studying pictures and make them home during this. But first part
Somebody
was that getting presents where we had a favorite book to go back into the social.
Well, like I know my kids, at my university, my kids would go back and say that when they were reading over
Didn't know
and over
that.
again.
This is just
Because
older.
those are the books, yeah, because then those are the books that they're gonna be reading at home. And
And
it's
it's
important that we don't let them
It's teaching
know
the
that
kids to
whenever
be
we're
their
talking
own
about,
best.
because you have this very simple comprehension, you know, that's the first step, just like we have to teach in like, phonetic spelling. It's that first step to teach them how to do this.
To read it to them several times. So, it just talks about getting them ready for that process, finding the books that they love to read and finding that.
So I think that's good, and then that also encourages parents to, you know,
As the been progresses, we're teaching about connecting the importance of connecting the pages in the books, making their reading sound closer to the actual language in the book, and then reminding them to be sing when we're still kind of good about it. And then before the unit ends, encourage the kids to read some of the words on the pages. If any of them are ready for that, just talk about focusing on what they're still working on here. And then the end of this unit was letting them choose and read one special favorite. And then again, that will know that they've succeeded in choosing multiple things, their pictures, their words and actions to clear that.
the reading they're talking about. Especially assessment, which ones they can see. Right, the assessment, they can see it, all they Because we're, and your process is so overwhelming. Getting into your involving assessing printing skills, cap skills, and then really making demonstrations of what they already have.
That was one of them.
Yeah.
That's that grant. So it gives them
What do they like about the real life? What they're doing anyway. But there's academics.
Okay.
For track all this.
Right.
So, then it says administrative process.
Better idea. Okay. Nothing.
Then it says chapter six.
So doing that.
And you can just put shovel it
I would say
aside.
you're supposed to do these things every year.
Yeah, you better
But it has to be
put
done.
process
Mhm.
right.
Right.
It is really helpful.
Right, but I'm just saying, that's,
Sure, for sure.
Yeah, or even ICANN. Does ICANN say parents so fast? They do, but I think while I'm out.
And then it says gathering data about students.
You could, but I think that they're really gonna do it.
Yes, they do.
With the young ones, so.
There's the little pictures are really cool. It gives us that. And when I look at those pictures, they are the same picture. Like
They'll
it
pick
carries
it up.
all the way up. Yeah, I was wondering how they use the same, like if it's action, it's a kid kicking the ball, you know, it's the same picture, so they
Yeah,
can
and
see
then it says,
it. But a lot of us are reading our we read it, and we understand it, but we're looking for it. They're very helpful to us, but there is.
Another question, I'm just wondering, yeah, it shows me is the transition that HAR-BER could take that risk and go right on the campus, right?
See, it's hard to order.
It could.
It just happened, it just, you know.
I might do it with a friend.
Yeah, I know how they would need it.
it's not, it's like, I don't know, so much, you know.
Yes.
As part of building that environment, building that risk where they want to.
And they will.
Yeah.
Get that one kid that
Not everyone, if we go with that first list, just that's just your practice.
Right, I know.
He's even, he doesn't even want
I can look for it. I
to
can-
try. You know, he's really nervous now. It's just certified now. Yeah. I don't know, they find you make that's a good idea. Yeah.
They probably do that, I make mistakes.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Totally good, I mean, that was pretty good.
Okay, so will you write? Absolutely.
all of that.
So that's important to educate our parents. There are, just can't.
Yeah, first grade.
I remember it was in a lesson.
3 more minutes, about 3 more. Thanks,
Here's the impact that it has.
Also, it allows you to restore the mainstays and like, this is the name that it's 12. So, you read
opportunities, like those across the new see 4 or 5 hours in the first week or two, so we can set up for them to. I do that next year.
Are we doing
Yeah, me too. I'm just saying, setting your hour next year.
Did you, this is beware the same sign that brown bear, and I will walk in. And right next to read the shared reading out of reading, but if they don't meet the criteria, that's strong, like leverage the story. It says, books that you're going to read again and again should have a strong plot with a very traditional narrative structure. It should have retreating characters and go through a series of events that makes trouble. So like those books that you like Brown Bear, and those kind of things are great shared reading, but not things about favorites. So that's a good the books that we learned a plot. Should have a problem and solution because translating the retelling. So I know there's a lot of I hate that. Sorry. Little bitty girls with good names. Hey, this thing.
All right, writers and readers, we're going to go ahead and get started. To kind of close up this particular workshop, we've done the mini lesson. We had our friends come to the carpet and we modeled how to unpack a unit of study. Then we actually had time to do that work individually. We had a long block of time to read and then to actually talk about the text that we're reading, talk in response to the text. And then we're going to have a time for share. And I'm going to try this with y'all. I don't know if this is going to work across the day, so I need to make sure that it can work. I'd like us to practice something. It's called a whole class conversation. So I'm hoping that the mic will be able to pick up our voices. Basically what this is now we've talked amongst our tables, we've processed some things, and now we're going to maybe talk across schools and across PLCs. And basically what this looks like is one person talks at a time, and you maybe start out with a new idea you're having, and maybe you might add on to that idea of thinking. And so I'll model this with Dr. Stuman. Let me think. One thing that I heard and have read, and sometimes I frequently forget, that Brown Bear and Chicka Chicka Boom Boom are fantastic books and then fantastic with their repetitive text. But I need to remember that I'm going to save those for shared reading time and make sure that within my long block of time that kids are actually reading books that are plot thick and have some character struggle with them. Have you ever had that problem or have had anything similar, or do you have a new understanding about that?
That was a great part of our conversation over here, was those books that I used when I taught kindergarten too may not be the ones that are best for our kids in this process of developing their foundational skills and letting them see the flow of how a story goes. Another thing that we thought of and read about was the type of books that they need access to, specifically in that first bend, the interactive, the touch, the engaging, to get them to turn from page to page to page. that is something we don't have in a lot of our classrooms.
Right. So you saw how I just didn't talk and she just nodded at me. She added on to what I said and maybe had a new understanding. So we teach kids to maybe talk long about a thought. And what I'm going to do is maybe push you to do that same type of work. I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes. And I'd like for us to, one person just kind of say a new understanding that they have, and maybe another person grow that idea across this room. And if things get dull, we can definitely use our prompts for pushing our thinking. That's a go-to when things kind of get stale. You can use this to kind of push that talk for a little bit longer. We'll go ahead and I'll set my timer. And what I'm trying to do is out here, I'd like for you to listen to this whole class conversation. I'm hoping the mic can pick up our conversations, even though I'm the one that's mic'd. So I'm hoping if you can, when we talk, when we talk, let's maybe talk in a little bit louder voice than we typically would just at a table. Does anyone want to start that conversation? It could start like this. A new idea I'm having.
A new idea I'm having is that although I may be diving into binge 1, I need to have an idea of what I'm doing in binge 2, because if I haven't done the repeated readings of those plot-thick storybooks,
Right.
when I get to binge 2, they're not going to have any old favorites.
So with that being said, I think that it is important that we choose those old favorites wisely and make sure that we are doing those multiple readings of those over and over and over again. And we were even discussing about making sure you have multiple copies of those old favorites, because you know, you're going to have 20 kids in your classroom and they're all going to be dying for the Three Billy Goats Gruff. And so you may not necessarily have 20 copies of that text, but you need to have, we were thinking multiple copies would be something that would be important for us to have in our classroom.
Which helps you be thoughtful as you are building your classroom library or using your funds that you have and what you purchase to be in your room.
Without knowing what your unit, how it's going to unfold, you don't know that. So that you can see how this work right here just kind of sets that up for knowing what types of books or how many books that we're talking about. We're not just talking lots of books, we're talking a lot of books.
And to add on to that, you don't only need storybooks, but it starts off with those nonfiction texts. So making sure that you have a lot of nonfiction text, like kind of a 50-50 nonfiction text, but also those story texts, and have multiple. And what she was saying, to have those engaging texts. I thought that was interesting.
In bin 2, this connects with reading at home. This connects with reading at home too. She says that we want to be able to teach our students to make new old favorite storybooks, finding an adult at home that can read and reread a favorite book to you, so it becomes your old favorite at home. And we were talking about how it's important for us to let parents know. Sometimes parents will say, well, they're not really reading that. But that natural progression of learning to read comes with, retelling that story. So I think that tells me that it's important for our parents to know that, they really are reading, and so they can connect what we're doing at school with what they're doing at home.
And from my experience, to add on to that, I'm Mike, so it'll probably be okay. From past experience, parent education is going to be a part of this. The more that we understand, the better that we can educate our parents. And so please know that there will be questions along the way your parents will ask, and just knowing that's fully to be expected of them. We would anticipate those questions, and we will work to educate our parents along the way.
To add to that, I think it's important that we have the parents
do a little reading log. And I started that beginning of the year, and I kind of failed to keep up with that. But this is making me realize that the reading log and having them spend, short increments of time with them every night and building on that can really help too, especially with their confidence.
And for stamina and volume alone, to be able to just see, if I'm a runner, I kind of want to keep track of my my mileage, and I want to see that some days that I don't run as much as the other days, and those types of logs are great for kids and parents to reflect on really what's happening at home. And we also look at logs at what amount of time are you providing kids to actually read. That is a visual piece for you to actually see how much time is being provided to them. So, yeah. I would say we successfully completed a whole class conversation while, thank you. You'll see that while that got a little odd, a little quiet, the more we do that within our classrooms, the more that our kids understand that we are talking across these texts, and we're talking long. They're very, we are accustomed, and so are our students, of talking real short, giving a short answer. But we work to talk long about a topic, to grow ideas from each other. We're learning from each other. So that's one of those protocols that we practice a lot in the classrooms. And obviously you build the stamina up. The more information you have, you could talk longer. But I strongly encourage you to have those whole class conversations. Notice that I moved to being with you during that whole class conversation. I'm a part of you. I'm a learner with you. It sets that message for the kids that while in the mini lesson I'm the teacher and I'm giving direct instruction, but right now I'm just with you. I'm a learner right along with you. It just feels like home. And I know in kindergarten, I definitely have taught 10 years of kindergarten. I have experience with that. That's what we do. That's what we do. And I guess what I'm doing is affirming that that's good work, and it feels good to our kids, and it creates that culture. So here we are. We have just completed one lesson, how to unpack a unit prior to you teaching. This can happen. This protocol that you saw can happen at any grade throughout the year. You can make it work for your building or your PLC. We choose to do it at an in-service day or a staff meeting day. We choose to do it then, and that's just a choice that we've done because we do our planning for instruction throughout the week. But I highly encourage you to do something similar to this. I feel like within this room, some of us have our feet wet, and some of us are getting our feet wet, and I think we all are in agreement that this is probably pretty important work to understand how this unit unfolds, and just have some clarity so you and your members of your PLC and your admin know what's happening. And just like you had said, you may be in bin 1, but do you know what's happening in bin 2? And I've been there. I don't know what's happening tomorrow, and that's really not in. I see facing head shaking. That I understand that, but we can work to get that a little better, a little firmed up by doing something similar to this. I'm going to go into another lesson in just a second, and this particular lesson is going to be how do you prepare as a PLC? How do we? Notice I'm using that word we because it's a collaborative group that's preparing for next week of instruction. I need to gather a few things. I might need to go to the bathroom, and I think I'm probably just going to say a 5-minute, and then once I teach this, we'll have a longer block, maybe a 15 minutes. It's nice to know what's in front of you. We're going to take a 5-minute now. We'll learn a new lesson. Then we'll have a 15-minute-er and kind of switch gears for the rest of this training. Does that sound all right? We good? Okay, so see you back in about 5 minutes. Okay.
Doing a good job. Very good.
I keep researching. I already had a set of systems, so I found that when I paid for all theirs, I never ran out of things.
But we've got this right here.
Oh.
You're doing great.
You really are doing a good job.
You can't tell. You're not, you look, yeah, you can't tell. You look real good. Oh, thank you. I know, I was
So my other favorite that
I kind of pulled up. She was like worried about me on camera over here. She's on camera over here. She's like,
And then I read that it's just kind of like one of those. Yeah. But then what it says like, dude, I was trying to. Yeah. It'll go like is it really worth being like but I just read it using alibis.
I went to 7. Oh. Got here about circle. What time is it? Oh my God. It took that long.
Yeah.
Like the road. Off of both sides.
Yeah.
We've had that.
So that's what I like. Last night I was watching the because I just went and I'm like at night I want to cry. But by the morning when I'm feeling better, I'm like, honey, I'll make it. Yeah. Right. Well, the other reason I haven't really pursued it, which is these are both symptoms that I'm really stressed anyway. And then, yeah, so like in high school, I figured out like when I'm stressed, I get highs. And in high school, we're actually really yeah, and so I think that's just what's happening. So I'm like, well, what are you gonna do? Yeah, I don't need to. Like, I know I've had this problem. I know I have a sensitive stomach already. I was surprised. And I know I've been eating junk food. So, on top of that, I only had a tea for last night. And I didn't know, but that's all I want. And then all it needs to do is something else. It doesn't make sense, but it's like, I know I can eat because it's gonna make it worse. I mean, I have to eat bland food.
There's not really a clear-cut line across Springdale. Sometimes I take out my ribs, I take them to one, straight shot, and then it's just like, okay, that's what happens.
And this will be archived.
Yeah, sometimes if I was in time, but ours at night,
All the online research.
I never think that. Sometimes I get flags to be a different. But I didn't know that was very that way.
Obviously, we have. We all have like 4
I don't know myself, you know, but maybe I'll go this morning.
She's like, wait, who's gonna be there? You're all gonna be there?
Right, writers and readers, we're ready to get back and learn some more about these reading units of study. This next unit, or this next lesson that I am about ready to teach and have you get to be a part of, will hopefully get your PLCs, have a system in place for maybe planning the next week of instruction. So how I plan to do this is invite a group to the carpet. And these tools that you'll need to come to the carpet, you'll need your Unit 1, your We Are Readers. You'll need a writing tool, and you'll need some type of piece of paper or a sticky note, just something that you might want to jot notes down on. It's just, maybe you don't use it, but it's always important to have those tools. When you're a nonfiction writer, to have those tools in place beside you is always nice to have. I'd like to invite Shaw with us today, and we're going to watch them come to the carpet fast and fluently. And everyone else, you're going to be doing the same work and kind of fishbowling and watching us do this. Oh, sorry. Look at that, so nice. Writers and readers, I'm so glad you're here today. We just had a lesson on unpacking a unit, and now we are going to go into something very new. It's the next level to this, and actually planning for the next week of instruction. I'm going to set my timer. Like I said, I'm trying to keep myself in check so I can provide you the longest block of time possible to be able to do this work. I'm going to step outside of being a teacher. This is that demonstration teaching. I'm demonstrating and then actually letting them practice this work. And this is what a lot of these lessons will be set up as, demonstration teaching. Sometimes there's other types of lessons, but most of them are demonstration teaching. So stepping back in as teacher. Here's my connection. Oh, wow. I just told you a story about our PLC jumping in and not reading the overview. I'm going to tell you about this one too. This is a similar story. As a PLC, we took our books home and we read lesson 1 and I took my book home and I read lesson 1, and my friends took their book home and read lesson 1, and then we went back to our rooms and we shut the door and we taught lesson 1. And we were like, well, that worked okay. And then we did the next night. I took my book home, I put it in my bag, I took my book home, I read it, read lesson 2. And my friend did the same thing, and my other friend did the same thing, and we all went to our rooms and we shut the door and we taught lesson 2. By then, we couldn't even barely open our eyes. We were tired. We were extremely tired. We had been staying up very late processing this, and then I was teaching this, and I don't even know if it was successful or not. I had no idea, and I really didn't know if, I was kind of embarrassed to ask my friend, you know, because I had kind of flopped and my friend probably was successful. There was that kind of culture happening. We quickly as a PLC just said, this is not working for us. This is not sustainable. I can't read these till 3 a.m. I have other content to teach. I have a family. Honestly, I have a family. So there are some things that we need to get better at. So we set a protocol in place, and I'm about ready to show you this protocol. When I was in, we had some new teachers in New York with us at the Teachers College last summer, some of my teachers from Sonora Middle. And we got to share this protocol that we did, and we actually got feedback from Lucy on how to make it even better. So, and she's really crystal clear with her goals and her feedback. And so we took her feedback, and we've made that even better, our process even better this year. So I'm here to share that process with you. And again, this is something that I'm just sharing with you across the district on ways that you can keep this sustainable and also be able to have more time to think about your small group instruction, which is really the heart and soul of this work. So this part right here, you're planning as a PLC. We want to learn how to do this pretty fast. So we can have that time to plan right there. We're going to try this work on a really, no, we're not going to try it. We're going to watch this. Okay, this is stepping out of the teacher mode too. These are my teachers. We filmed them. Please be nice to them. They weren't real happy about being filmed. They were happy to share with what we do, but please know that they're just people in our district trying to do this work just alongside you. So just be nice. And so they're going to model, we're going to model how 1 week of instruction, one time in our PLC when we planned for the next week of instruction. We do this every single week. It follows the same protocol, but this is just a snapshot of 1 week. And we're going to watch this. I've made it short, so it fits within my mini lesson. I'm going to try to stay within my mini lesson time, and then we'll actually release to try this work within our PLCs. Okay, so you're going to see teachers read the mini lesson for these parts, these components. These are components that maybe you as a staff learned that every mini lesson follows these components, follows the structure and routine. They follow it. Lucy follows, the curriculum follows that every single day. So here's the video. And once again, this is just, we're just watching to see how this unfolds and maybe thinking about how we can replicate this in our own buildings so this can be sustainable and we have more time to plan for small group of instruction. Writers and readers, I'm glad you're here today. It's Friday, and Friday is typically our day that we plan for next week of instruction, and we know that our goal is plan for next week of instruction, and the purpose for doing this all together is working together to build a shared knowledge is the best way to achieve goals and meet the needs of our students. So we'll do the protocol that we've been practicing this year of learning how to plan for next week of instruction as a PLC and fast. So what I will do is assign one lesson to each person, each member of the PLC. You'll read that lesson for 7 minutes. You'll practice the same skills and strategies that we ask our kids to do. You'll read a chunk. I would probably assume that you're going to read the connection chunk and then jot. Read the teaching point and then jot. Then read the teaching part, think about it, and then jot. Active engagement, you'll read, think, and jot. And then the link, think, and jot. And we, as a PLC, we're pushing ourselves to even go beyond that for this process to kind of think about the mid-workshop point in our small group instruction. So we'll read for 7 minutes, and then we'll actually come to the carpet and teach each other. So each one of you are going to become an expert of a lesson for next week. Are we ready? I'm going to set my timer and then I'm going to assign. So Sarah, you're going to be lesson 6 for next week. Sandra, you're going to be lesson 7 for next week. Janet, you'll be lesson 8 for next week. Melissa, you'll be lesson 9 for next week. And Kim, you'll be lesson 10 for next week. And we will begin. Seconds to finish your last thought or jot. All right, readers and writers, we're going to go ahead and come to the carpet, and we'll start with Monday's lesson, which is number 6, and that will be Sarah.
Okay, students, you have seen multiple different maps in your social studies classes. Well, today I want to talk to you about some of the some older maps. When maps were first being created, when they were first discovering the waters, they would actually place a dragon on the maps where there were trouble spots. So if there were maybe lots of sea creatures there, or if there were hurricanes in that area, or if it was just a part of the water that they hadn't really explored yet, they would put dragons all over this map. And I have a picture for you here to show you. Well, we're actually going to do that, look for those areas of trouble in our fantasy stories. So today I'm going to teach you that in your fantasy stories, your characters often face different kinds of dragons. Some of them are literal, we have dragons in our fantasy stories, but some of them are metaphorical dragons, and they symbolize those problems, those trouble areas that your characters are going to face.
I know that there's something I can learn from HAR-BER. And what I think about HAR-BER is that he's a boy that started off self-centered, and he made a lot of mistakes, but he's trying to undo those into trying to be brave. So what I'm learning is that you can make mistakes, but still pick yourself up to do better. As I'm about to send you off, I want you to choose some life lessons that you're learning from your book. Now, I want you to narrow it to just one, and you're going to need to be ready to explain it to somebody else. So I want you to quickly jot just one idea.
Okay, welcome back, readers. Today I'd like to talk to you about our mini lesson, which is on our fantasy unit, and it's talking about internal quests, knowing that quests can be internal as well as external.
So you have all studied history in different ways. You've studied World War II through Number of the Stars. You've studied the Civil Rights Movement through Ruby Bridges and Martin Luther King Jr. You know about historical characters just like you know about the fantasy characters in the books we're reading now. The fantasy characters in the books we're reading now are magical. They're not real. They don't exist in real life, but we learn the same lessons from them as we learn from historical characters.
Readers, I want you to think about a famous athlete that you know and somebody that's really good at something. And I want you to think about, do you think they just make a lot of money with what they're doing and they just stop doing it? Or do you think they try hard to keep getting better and better and better? That's what we need to do as readers. So today I want to teach you that you shouldn't just wait for somebody else to look at your reading and to help you figure out how to make it better. You should be doing that yourself. You need to constantly be asking, what can I do to be better at this skill? So I want you to watch me as I look at my last night's writing about theme, and I want to compare it to the progression today. And I want you to watch as I kind of go through this to really honestly look at myself to figure out what I need to do better. Oh gosh, I need to do better on this. I didn't even do this part. Okay, so I think I'm going to be a 4. Okay, so now I need to figure out what my next step is. Okay, yeah, I know exactly what I need to do next, okay? So what I want you to do right now is I want you to pull out the writing that you did last night on your theme. I want you to open it up, and I want you to use the progression that you have in your notebook, and I want you to figure out where you are with this writing.
Are there any tools that need to be prepared before your lessons? Any of the resources? Resources or, yes.
The day of my lesson, there are a list of themes that will need to be printed off, and also you'll need to have a link to there's a historical figures with their dragons
Okay.
and their lessons that they learned that you'll need to be able to project on the MEP.
Do you think we need a copy per student of the themes, or could we show that up there, or will we need that at the tables?
I think that you would need a copy of the themes for each student,
Okay.
but for the one with the historical characters, you would just need one to project.
Okay, all right. Readers and writers, we have successfully. Please know this is very quick, and your stamina and your expertise will get better and better at this process. It's not unusual for a teacher to sit in the chair and get to just the connection and be like, and the timer goes off, that's as far as I got. As our PLC, we support each other and we say, I know, it's hard. We all shake our head. Yes, it's hard work. But it also, what it does here is you get to, like if you're sitting here, you get to experience how it feels to sit and receive instruction. So you have that happening. Right here, as a teacher, you're getting some time to practice some of these words, these new words that aren't typical words that you've used in instruction, and you get to practice that. So we're going to try this work, and I push you to really try to keep with the lens of teaching instead of telling your friends. It could look like this. In this lesson, you're going to do this and this and this. But I push you to maybe take the other perspective and really do it as a teacher, and push yourself to do that. So when we release, we're going to do this work. We're going to decide amongst your group. Let's just start with lesson 1. One person in your group is going to read lesson 1, and another person in your group is going to read lesson 2, and another person 3 or 4. And again, this is just, I'm assuming that you have 3, 4, 5, I'm assuming that you had 4 people. But if you have more than that or less than that, just, you can adjust that and make that work for you. I'm going to allow for 7 minutes to read. Most of you will be jotting. You saw some types of jotting here, and we'll talk about that at the end of this, of some of the jotting that you saw. But what I want you to hold on to today is what you naturally go to. How do you naturally jot and make meaning of something? Do that today. And then I'll talk to you about other ways of doing things later in this process. So for 7 minutes, you'll read, and then we will stop, and then I'll regroup you to get ready to actually teach your friends. And I don't know that we need to put a chair in front of us and do that right now, but I will say it's absolutely a fantastic way to kind of set things up and just really have that feeling of a classroom on a smaller scale. So many lesson people, I'm going to ask that you release. I'm going to use those magic words in just a second. You're going to need your unit of study. You'll need to make a decision within your group who's going to teach what lesson. And then you will begin reading. And we'll go ahead out here. I assume that you'll probably just turn down your sound so you're not distracted while you're reading, but you can actually see what's still happening in this room. Okay? So off you go, readers.
finish up your last sentence or thought. All right, writers and readers, we have just read as much of a lesson that you possibly could in this amount of time. It's very quick, it's fast-paced, it does get easier. A question that has come up, and I'm so sorry I didn't make this clear in the beginning. Why are we teaching Unit 1 in May? So, great question. Aside of the fact that the Teachers College of Reading and Writing project did suggest Unit 1 for us, if we set up the rollout like we have, allowing you to have this time in May, they suggested Unit 1. With my knowledge and my background and experience in this, Unit 1 sets up those routines and structures really clearly for our kids, and for nothing else, this teaching in May is for you to really just navigate through these units. This is more about you and just learning how this all works. And it's an extra bonus if this happens to be the unit that you teach in the fall. If you stay in this grade, this is an extra bonus that now you have a really good understanding of what you're going to teach in the fall. But to just understand how these routines and structures get set up, and of course you're going to have to replace words like welcome to the first day of school. You know, you'll have to replace those. And I have some thing that I'll share with you on helping you to do that. But for the most part, this is just for you to just really learn these units, learn one unit and how it all works, and how it all gets set up for a year of instruction. And so that's the purpose. And I want you to know that this, we're just doing this together in May. And that's the first unit sets those routines and structures up. I felt like if we did the last unit, that those routines and structures would, those expectations would already be set up. So just knowing that this is for you, for nothing other, for you and your team to just understand these units. All right, so we are going to actually get to be taught by our peers, and we get to feel like we're within that classroom with that teacher. One of the things there's one teacher in my group in one of our PLCs that just sits and just kind of sits on her chair when she teaches us, just almost like this. And I've felt like I've started to do that same work in the classroom, just watching how close she gets instead of sitting like this. It's just something that I feel like I've learned from watching her, and just some of the pacing that I've learned from my friends sitting in this chair. It's definitely peeling some skin off of us and just knowing that we're transparent in this process. But it's just kind of neat to be able to just see how others do this work in their classrooms, because we quite honestly don't get in each other's rooms near enough. And so this gives you a little glimpse of that. So we're going to try this work. 4 minutes. I'd like for us to try to get through a week of instruction. So that would be five lessons. And so I'll set my timer for 20 minutes, and you out in our broadcasting sites, you might just want to turn off your sound, and that way you can still see in for 20 minutes, and just try this work. Let's just be good with each other and comfortable with each other and just give it a shot. All right, you may begin.
Books, and we are going to gather here every day wrapped up in books. Today, I want to teach you that readers walk through the world in a special way. They read names, they read signs, and they do this by looking at words and thinking, what does it say? Are you ready to read? Are you ready to walk and read the world? So we are going to get up and go to the walk, and we're going to walk to the lobby of our school. We have been to this lobby before, but we have seen this lobby before, but readers don't just see a lobby, they read the lobby. So look around and see what you could read. So I'm gonna point to this picture, and say, look at this. What do you think this says? I didn't get all of this right. So now it's going to be your turn. Are you typing now? Okay. Now it's going to be your turn. We are going to go to another part of the school, and you are going to get some time to work on this. So let's walk to the bathroom. You usually come in this place very quickly, and you walk out. But I want you to try to read this place. We might change that one. I went to the outside of the bathroom and read, please, girl. And that's what we went.
We were in the pod and we looked at the names outside the classroom. So you don't want to know there's
Parliament because there's library, music, art. They were reading the stuff in the
also
floor.
helped us in the middle of the year.
So you see, children's bathroom, toilet, and we don't have that stuff, just as a side note. So somewhere where we see those things labeled and we are going to read. All right, kindergartners, you are doing what readers do. Now, we know that readers walk through the world. They do, one, they look, two, they think, and last of all, they read. So from now on, know that you are a reader and know that you can start right this very minute walking through the world and reading. You're reading names, you're reading signs, directions, and songs. I have numbered our classroom. When I touch your shoulder and give you a number, I want you to head off to that side of the classroom and you're going to spend some time reading everything you can read in that part of the classroom. You make sure you are reading the room and whisper those to yourself. Share. Ask you about other things that we can share and read in the world. Like going back to it,
Like doing the can now.
I see a lot of it makes more sense.
It makes more sense.
Yeah.
You can see the connection.
Things that I was like, oh, that's not important, and now later in lessons, you're like,
Well, I mean, when you're doing it, you don't realize that you're building as much as when you look back and you're like, oh,
There's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. At the end of the map.
It's like the fact that one whole lesson you just read on the train stay in bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Especially where you figure it out how much and then
Or is it just random?
because they connect.
You won't believe, not everything, not everything.
well, even just going back and rereading like this lesson, I was like, oh, I remember hearing this. I remember this stage, and I remember that. That's
Whether maybe we can look at it later this year. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, you don't know. Look at you and be like, I'm gonna show them. I love that. I mean, you're always gonna be directly.
But you should encourage that they're connecting.
It was very, what I was, it was usually a bit better.
So they're not, it's not like
They're not 20 and 10.
Right, it was a great,
yeah.
then we'll talk about that. So we're gonna talk about that.
Just go on.
Talk about the years remind you what they learned yesterday, so you can transition on into the next. And then you're also teaching about kids that will come this one here.
Yeah.
Because he is the exception to the rule. Yeah, she would.
There's another one, there's another one coming in too.
She would write
That he tells you.
Oh, yeah. She's like, we can do this way. And then they'd be like, thank you.
He has very high expectations.
She will things that you buy.
They're not singing, Shirley.
Oh, I want to go.
She started it. She didn't see her.
I want to learn.
I never say of the song to come to the garden. Haley wants to know what the grade was.
So basically, here we are again. Didn't go to school. And just like that, I feel as she's observing the buildings today, trees, so many buildings. Some books are storybooks. Storybooks tell the story of what happened. And I just feel like trying to run out of here because I don't have pictures. I still forget and I'm going to miss anything that, so I'm always.
But they see you reading.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I know. Every night.
So, then I can pull out my reading scrap. This is just, they were supposed to turn out to do artwork. I just been talking about stories. Other books are more about and I do a lot of different kinds of videos because I teach this book and they got into research workshops.
Absolutely.
Over the next few weeks, we learn about
Well, I mean,
secondary school. Now, first grades, you kind of backtrack about yesterday. Yesterday,
I know.
I think you did how to learn about language first year. Our learners who learned about the office, where the
Oh, wow.
office were, who learned the exits were, classroom management set up, gives you a head start for where it's going. So that was also. We read the classroom.
Okay, all right. But I hope.
So that's
Like there was a, is it to learn
yesterday.
unit
Yeah.
or to, I wonder when they start.
Show you how I do.
Yeah.
So then you demonstrate how to
Can
learn about the
teach
world.
the unit. But you're right, I think
You'll have a chance to do
they
this.
will be able to
Then
advance.
I opened up to the
So they
middle
kind of know that when they go to the next room. And even as my sixth grade teachers, I have said, every kid coming to you will have had some of this. Not really, but they're gonna have some of that. So it's good for the kid families. I am shocked that she doesn't even talk in there. It's like in lesson one. She just says it. Off to the side, does she say a little thing like, this isn't gonna be perfect, so this hasn't been taught. Very rarely does she. Like in an upper grade, it'll say that. It was probably taught in kindergarten, but it wasn't taught. It says nothing about talk. When she says turn to talk, does over here, does she say something like your transition from meeting area, students reading?
Turn and talk to someone and tell them what
Talking to them, but not like, do it, you want to give us some feedback on how that went. Let's try to go.
Because right here it says, then I said, turn and talk, tell someone near you what you see and what you're learning.
Typically when she inserts something that you expect, if you know kids don't know, she'll say.
But I think it's different than, unless they're just supposed to have conversation.
So what you have done is you're informally assessing. They don't know how to do that in your lesson. You kind of think, okay, that thing needs to be clear.
So in my lesson, I'll probably just.
Exactly. But I would have liked to have her say, please no, you're saying this, but they're probably not going to. But you're informally, who does it, who has been, who has. Oh, no. Like, you're not going to get quality. Yeah. But I mean, many times, like, she'll mention something, we're just like, well, she probably taught it in her previous unit, but I mean, that's front and center, that's the start. Interesting. So we need to informally, just turn and talk. Why aren't you doing that?
But I don't know if that's after that, you all know, I talked about the seesaw for my class. Yeah. And reading with the park.
So that's what I was thinking about after I finished my study. I was like, how are they?
And then you have to get with the partner, so they're trying.
I have to do it with them.
And then we'll go over that for a while, then you get back to everything about what they like. They just didn't have enough of how it was awesome. To make it, you know. We're getting
All right, well, just in the last few days, we have done a lot of reading. And, Miss Ruthie said she's not yet. Walmart.
I know, I was like, I'm glad you said, I'm here, I was like,
Now, we're in the part of the day. Does anybody know what this says right here?
yeah.
It says reading workshop. See? I knew you are already readers. So,
I was reading, can we put our
you are already reading, y'all are already reading. Because you are. I need to make sure.
How many lessons have y'all taught? 1, 2, 3. Did you teach? Have y'all 3? Okay, you have. Okay. I'm just trying to keep it in check. Oh yeah, no, that's good. I was just checking on my time. That's fine. That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Reader and books, we start with the front cover.
I bring their tubs that I always put down kind of higher up, and then, all right, we're gonna go.
About 3 more minutes. 3.
Yeah.
To really study the title, I just love the pictures. Now, this book, I always used to be a lot. This book, what did you see on the front cover?
About letters.
A lot of fun.
Letters.
Yeah, so, I wonder what these words say right here. I think they probably say the bug book. Because look at all the different letters. It really does read about it. Now, let's turn to the title.
Right, writers and readers, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I made an instructional decision to shorten this up a little. I feel like you got the gist of how this rolls, but I want to give you some feedback, and I also want to provide you some time to actually have some conversations across schools about this work. I don't know that we finished a full week of instruction, got through 5 lessons, but I think that could, you now know how you could think about setting up time to do this within your PLCs. When you are setting up time within your PLCs, please do not leave out this part right here, because this is the part that will keep the not sidebar conversations, but the questions along the way. Like after you taught, there might be questions. After you taught, there was some processing time. I encourage you to push yourself to go from lesson 1. And as a facilitator, I literally say, and now it's Tuesday, and the next person comes up. And so we don't have that in-between time. We save that for right here so we can construct a view of how this week is going. Some of those questions that you're going to process are naturally going to come up in lesson 2. So that's some feedback that could possibly, when you're planning this, a structured time to actually plan for next week of instruction. Please don't leave out this piece, because this is the piece that kind of clarifies and puts things together. You saw in the video where I was kind of clarifying what copies we need, and that's logistics. That needs to happen. But typically the conversation is like, wow, I didn't realize that Turn and Talk is going to be in lesson 2. That makes me realize that we're probably, where did that get taught? And that kind of conversation happens here, okay? So then you don't get down to Tuesday, just teaching Tuesday, and then you leave the PLC and you're like, I know what happens to Tuesday, but that's as far as we got. So, just really as a facilitator or within your PLC, really kind of stay true to that timer when it bings, that you know that you get up from the chair and the next day is the next person's teaching. So the other piece of feedback is, and some of y'all were stepping in and out of being teacher and teller. I'm telling you, it took us maybe several months to move out of just full teaching mode, but you could see if some of your people did stay in teacher mode, how it really got you to be like, oh, we ended on you. It was just like, I was there, and he was just teaching us, and all of you wanted to raise your hands when he said it. It just makes you just feel like you're there. There's a lot of value to that, and there's value in telling your friends, but you can do the telling through that. So that's just a piece of feedback, and that was our crystal clear feedback from Lucy. Stop telling and start teaching. And we were like, yes, ma'am. So yes, and it has made a big difference. It's made us just really learn about each other in a PLC. Just even someone in my PLC said, I noticed that you hold your book this way. I've always just kind of held it this way. I mean, we've had those kind of conversations because we don't get in each other's rooms, okay? So now to stay true to what I've said that we need to do, I'd like us to maybe have a 5-minute, just a whole class conversation about this. And just this is processing or maybe even clarifying or constructing about the first week of instruction. I'm hoping it doesn't get dull on us, but if it does, we're going to push through. We're going to set the timer for 5, and we're going to talk long about this topic. And the topic is, how do we plan for next week of instruction? I'm going to set my timer, and I will start this. Sometimes when you do this, it helps to just kind of get it started. Let me get my props. This work makes me realize how one day's lesson builds on another day's lesson. This is not, here's the character lesson. I can't be absent that day because this is when it teaches character. Or this is the plot lesson because this lesson builds on this lesson and this lesson builds on this lesson.
To add on to that, going back and rereading, because we've taught some of these lessons, we were talking about how we skipped different things thinking they weren't important, and then realizing like, oh, that's important, like
weeks later, or adding to an anchor chart and then taking the anchor chart down and realizing, oh, I'm going to need that anchor chart. So really thinking about ahead of time what you're going to build onto and just reflecting about that.
To add to that, one thing that was helpful with the anchor charts is that we went onto the online resources and she shows the anchor charts once they're completed. And so for myself, when I was making them at first, I was never leaving enough room because I didn't realize we would add and add and add and add onto them. So it's been helpful for me to look ahead and see what they'll look like completed so that I know as I start to create them that I've left enough room.
I have to add on to that. I have been full honest. I've had 3 anchor charts taped to each other because it got that long. Like I wanted to hang it on the ceiling and have it come down. But I hadn't thought about looking ahead like that on a finished one and knowing that I need to leave a lot of room. Okay, thanks.
I realized we were looking at the 5th lesson, and I could see, I had the advantage of seeing how the language was building, and I thought that was really important to make sure that we do stay consistent with what's in the book, because that language builds on each other, because I was hearing that, knowing that what was coming up in our lessons.
I want to piggyback a little bit on what you said and what was mentioned over here. We have taught some of these lessons as well, and one of the things that we did is we did skip some things, but the language does build on each other, and the anchor charts do build on each other. And just making sure that you know where we are, where you're starting and where you're heading. Specifically, I read lesson 2, and it immediately said, like Charlene mentioned, turn and talk. Lesson 1 never even mentioned turn and talk. If we have not set up with our kids what turn and talk means, or we were trying to figure out, did Lucy, because it's important to read those little side notes that she puts there too, because sometimes she tells you how to do those things or gives you a hint. But we were trying to figure out, it wasn't in any of the side notes. So we were trying to determine, is she using that lesson as a turn and talk for you to kind of assess what your students do during turn and talk? Because then Chris said when she read lesson 3, it specifically starts talking about partner talk and how to turn and model sitting knee to knee and eye to eye. So you've got to really pay attention to those little details when you're planning your lessons as well.
I'll piggyback off of that, and I'll just talk really loudly. We try to read through as much of this, a guide to the reading workshop book as possible before implementation, and she does go through each section of the workshop and kind of set teachers up to know the expectations and some of the routines. And so for us, we practice the routines that we would need in December before we started to implement in January. So that might be something other teachers want to look into.
That makes me think about, there's always the first couple of weeks where I think that it would be very hard to dive into this on day 1, as it seems like she's done. But being able to have those couple of weeks or more that you need to set up those specific routines. If you have read ahead and know what routines those are the ones that you can set up in different places before you even dive into session 1.
Right. And I'll close this up. You'll often hear me or Lucy say, or her staff developers, setting up the routines and structures, those have to be in place so you are free to teach. If those are not in place, then you're not free to teach. And when I say that, sometimes, I just kind of have to digest it sometimes, because really, if those are not in place, I cannot do the work at hand here. To actually small group with these kids and individually, it's not going to be perfect. I know that, but understanding how important those routines and structures are. And her sidebar notes, and like Missy had said, are really help you make meaning of things that she says to kids. And she's very artful this way. She'll just say it to kids like, I mean, that's how we do things. But over here she says, now they have no clue what I just said, but I'm setting this up as an expectation and I'm clarifying this. So it's something we do as teachers a lot of times, but a lot of times when you just read this, you're like, what? I mean, they don't know any of this, but if you read that, she kind of helps you. She's that sitting on your shoulder and in your ear and just kind of talking to you. You're saying this because. So really stay true to reading that. That piece, those sidebar notes. All right, so I have to be real honest. I've taken a lot of time out of what we have planned for the rest of this training today. I have not stayed true to my times, and I'm going to refine that practice when I teach this again and again and again throughout this week. So I'm gonna maybe, could we bathroom and break in 5 minutes? Is that reasonable? So we can do the rest of our work and be learners and then be able to get yourself on your way to relieve your subs. And I think some of you are testing in your buildings and all of the above. So let's take our break for 5 minutes and then we'll be ready to learn some more. Thanks.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. We are going to move into the next portion of our training today. And this is an opportunity where we get to ask you all questions, since you all have already rolled out several units. This is an opportunity to give those of us who are going to be teaching Unit 1 in May an opportunity to kind of get some advice and some tips on how to do that, and maybe share some things you wish you had known before you got started. So those of you in the audience here, you may ask questions of them, and those of you who are at your schools, you're more than welcome to ask questions on the live chat as well. So anything you all want to share, start with, that you would like other teachers to know who are just rolling this out, and I'll pass the mic. Yeah, let me make sure it's on. There we go. Yeah, straight out.
Okay. I would say important, and I feel like we've already hit it a couple times, but using the online resources once you get it registered and really looking at what anchor charts you are supposed to have, and then maybe printing them off, because sometimes the sticky ones can get frustrating because they rip and then it's really sad. And having, you can print those out in black and white. That would help kind of save some of your time, so you can kind of put them up and plan. And then like what Erin had said, kind of look ahead to kind of situate it so that you can have it. She kind of has like little pictures of them. That seemed to be like one of the biggest things I've learned, kind of figuring out how to do it.
And just to piggyback on that, making those anchor charts, you can make them all ahead of time and then just put a piece of paper over the ones that you're not revealing that day. Was also something else we had talked about and that a lot of us do. And so I've made mine, and then I have just little pieces of paper, half sheets of paper stuck over them, and then they're laminated for year after year. But I definitely agree with the little sticky notes they rip every time. So we've just kind of abandoned those and moved right into the online resources.
One of the things I wish I had known was exactly what Charlene did with us today. We just dove in head first without even reading, the introduction to each unit. And I highly recommend you make sure you do that, because that's so very important. The other thing that I would say is this is going to be new to you. Give yourself a little bit of grace. It's not going to be perfect. Just do your best and don't give up on it, because it is one of the best things I feel like I've done in my classroom in a long time. So stick with it and don't give up.
To piggy off what Missy said, I think the most important thing is just to get the structure down. If you can get your mini lesson and then have them practice it and then send them to read. I feel like for me, the most important thing I've learned this year is to give them time to read. Because if you're teaching them all these great strategies, but you're not giving them any chances to practice it, then, they may forget it by tomorrow because they didn't have real live experiences with those in the books.
I was just going to say that Missy had said to be sure and give yourself grace. If you walk through our halls, a lot of the teachers, if you peek in their classroom, we are reading from the book, from the lesson. And, we just preface it by telling our students that this is something new that we're learning to help them. And so we're going to read to make sure that we get it right. Next year or the following year, we may not need that, but this year we do, to make sure that we're following through. So don't be afraid to use that book.
I feel like I want to piggyback off something everybody said, but Missy alluded to it. Not only reading the introduction to that next bend, that next unit, or the next unit, but also reading the green book. If there was something that you were going to resonate on and read for professional development this summer, it would be the green book, the guide to reading workshop. We read that. We went back over it. Mine has, and I see some out here, sticky notes, highlight, because what she says in there, her words, I think we'd all agree, her words sometimes are magical. And
it rejuvenated me and made me excited about what I was seeing with reading going on in our building, and I've seen it do the same thing for our teachers and staff. So, and I think also what Missy said, and Missy and I go way back with the teaching and with teaching kids reading and things like that. I would say that it is one of the best things I've seen us do for kids in reading. So if there is anxiety, if there is a wondering about it, I would just say, we say in our building, trust the process, trust the system, and trust each other, as well as be trustworthy, because it is going to take everybody working together, but it's the best thing we've done for our kids regarding literacy.
The Green Book also has like the explanations. At one point, she kind of uses vocabulary that you're not sure about. So like I've always heard about shared reading, but she mentions guided shared reading. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can guess what that is. But then she has like an actual section in the guide to explain and kind of give examples of what that is. So if you're finding yourself unsure, that's a great book to try to like go through and try to find that definition.
There's also a day-by-day guided reading or shared reading plan in the back, so it tells you kind of what to work on each day of the week, so that's helpful.
Okay, there have been some questions from the live chat. How often does guided reading occur? Have you all done small group work or guided reading group work within your workshop?
We are doing guided reading daily, but we have had to kind of spread it partially through the reader's workshop and then give ourselves an additional guided reading time. Just because in kindergarten, sending them off to read independently without those foundational skills or any explicit teaching in reading, we're not sure that we're going to have the gains that we need. So we're giving both. During our independent and partner reading time, we're conferencing with students and pulling small groups, and then also having a small additional guided reading time.
I was just going to say we're doing the same thing. We have not given up guided reading. We feel like we are still in the implementation process in our building. And so guided reading is still our one of our components of our reading that we're doing at Shaw. We also know that there are these progressions, these learning progressions that we're not familiar with yet. Number one, there's, as far as I'm aware of, I'm a new learner, there are no progressions for kindergarten. So right now we feel like at Shaw that guided reading is still a thing that we should be doing. Also, when we have our independent reading time, we are conferencing with students. We are pulling small groups. I feel like right now my kids are getting a triple dose of reading because they are getting my reader's workshop that I feel like is grade level. Everybody's getting on grade level instruction. I feel like my students are getting their guided reading, which is their specific to their reading level and the instruction they need to move them on. And then I also feel like during our intervention time, they're getting another dose. So I feel like right now my kids are getting a triple dose of reading.
I don't feel like you can just do away with your guided reading time because you almost need that 45-minute block to meet with each of your groups. And with your reader's workshop, you know, they're kindergarten, they don't have the stamina to read independently for that long while you can meet with all of your groups. So I feel like keeping the guided reading groups is a must in kindergarten.
Okay, another question. How often do you let your kids shop for books?
Kristen?
In my class, I do it every morning by table so that it doesn't really disturb what we do in the rest of the day. So I have 5 tables, so 4 kids each day are getting to shop for books in the morning. That way they keep their books for a week, and then the next Monday I do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday tables. So every Monday they know it's their turn to shop. That's just kind of been the system that has worked for me, but I'm sure everyone has different ideas about it too.
And how many books do you encourage them to have?
We try to encourage 8 to 10, I think is our goal, but I know that in kindergarten we don't quite have that many accumulated yet for everybody to have that much, but we also have their library books that they get to check out from, the Shaw Library, and books in our classroom that they get, along with our book baskets that we have set up. So,
Okay, I'm going to be honest. This for us was a high stress area. When we first started talking, it really was. Guys, do you guys agree? When you read Lucy and she says that they are supposed to have 10 to 12 books per week on their level, and you're thinking about kindergarten students at the beginning of their year are reading a level A or level B, they can't just go check those books out from the library. This was a high stress area for us in the beginning, and we just tried to manage that the best we could. If our kids had 3 books in their basket, that's better than no books. If they were books that we printed off of Reading A to Z because we have a school-wide, account there, then that's what we did. If I got on Teachers Pay Teachers and found some books to print off, but having a few books is better than no books. So do not let that bog you down, because that really, we felt that tugging at our hearts, and how are we going to manage that? So I think work smart and rely on your teammates to help you with that.
And I think the lessons lend themselves to that, because there's a lot of lessons on going back and rereading the same books over and over and over, like with a different voice, or adding and then, or adding a pinch of you. So the lessons kind of lend themselves to letting kids reread the same books. So even if you can't switch them every week, because we were having that discussion actually today. So don't worry too much about it, because the kids actually, it's kind of like rewatching their favorite movie over and over again. You're teaching them to love to reread the same books. And so I think that's what kind of gave me some grace in my classroom, is they didn't mind it as much as I thought they would. Okay.
Something else we also added in were things like their familiar reading that we'd been working on, poetry that we have done, songs that they'd sing, nursery rhymes that we have done, lots of things class lists, environmental print. We had books that we made, environmental print. We had all kinds of things that we added in. We also did, and one of the things we had observed at the school we went to see in Van Buren, where they'd taken sight words and they had just printed them in different fonts. And there were just pages and pages of sight words in different fonts. And so it was really interesting that, in our heads, we were thinking 8 to 12 books, but then, there are lots of other things that you can supplement in, especially in the beginning of the year, I think, is something that we'll be able to kind of work through as well next year.
Okay. You guys mentioned a few minutes ago something about reading stamina for kindergartners. How many minutes of independent reading and buddy reading did you start with?
So I made just a little flip chart, and it was like a 10 frame, and then I had these little POW marks, and it was like superhero themed because we were working on the superpowers. And every minute, every day we would start with 3 minutes. And if they could read independently for 3 minutes, then they would get their BAM for that day. And then the next day I might push it to 4. And if they could read for 4, then we'd get our BAM. And sometimes, they wouldn't get it that day, and I'd be like, okay, well, we'll try it again tomorrow. And we'd do 4 minutes the next day. And now we're up to 15 of them reading independently. So I feel like that was a great motivator for them. And it was something, we work with 10 frames all the time. They were so into the superpowers, and it was superhero themed, that it was something they could understand, and it was their goal. And then when we finished the 10 frame, they got to choose a little celebration, if it was extra recess or whatever it was they chose for that accomplishment.
Do your students have individual book baskets and table tubs?
We started the first unit with table tubs on their tables, and then eventually the students had their book boxes. Mine already had books. I think we all had book boxes too, starting with those poetry folders and those printed books, but table tubs as well. We don't have table tubs anymore. That we phased that out, so now they solely have the book boxes. But to begin, they had both table tubs and book boxes or browsing boxes.
And the reason that we did that is because in Unit 1, they begin reading nonfiction or learn about the world books. And so they're not reading for the print. They're looking at the pictures and finding wow pages to share with their friends. And so that was how we started with the Reader's Workshop.
Big picture, those of us that did comprehensive literacy model, Ella, those things, that's what I see us getting back to. When we talk about the book boxes, I remember at Lee years ago in their book boxes, we had poems, we had sight words. So don't worry or stress. Missy's right. We stressed about that too. That was a high stress area for us. Where do we get this number of books so kids have access? And so they have them in their book tubs. But essentially, we can create those things. One of the things we also saw at the other school, you know how a lot we all did the king and queen of the day and things like that. The kids' names that goes up on your word wall, putting those in a book, maybe with the student's picture beside it. So there are things that we can do and be creative to build up enough to be in there. But it's what those of us that were trained in Ella and those, it's getting back to that again.
This kind of goes back to what was in their book boxes. In Van Buren, we also saw that the teacher had taken their interactive writing that they had done whole group and then combined that into a class book. So I've even thought like our morning message or any of that interactive writing, we can take that and put into a book to have another source of something for the kids to read.
And then also talking about the books, the leveled books that we were really finding it hard to find true level A books or true level B books. So be careful when you're ordering sets of books, because we've ordered 2 different sets and we have found that the Lucy books are true level A books that our level A readers can actually read independently. And I think that's where a lot of the being able to read independently, that's where your behaviors start acclimating, is because that whole, whether or not they can actually read the book at this point, kind of where we are. And so we definitely have had some difficulty. We've found some, but that's definitely an issue out there, is that a lot of level A books that they say are level A's really aren't. They're very difficult. So just be aware of that.
Okay. So are your children moving? And if they are, how do you know when to move them to the next level of book?
I mean, I don't feel like that has changed. We're still doing guided reading, so my kids still have running records, and we're still bassing 3 times a year or more. And so it would just be the same as how we've always moved our kids. And so we know our children, and so when we know that they've progressed, we just move them to another box of books that they can shop from.
Talking about seeing kids progress, I see this model. In years past, my students have had, with guided reading, they've had 1 or maybe 2 books in their basket that they're reading a week. And now increasing that to the books that I'm introducing during a guided reading time, in addition to the books that they're shopping for, we've gone from reading 2 books a week to reading 10 to 12 books a week. And so, it's just like a swimmer or anything else. To become better, you have to practice. Well, I realized that I hadn't really given my kids the tools to be able to practice that. So I think that you will be just pleasantly surprised at how quickly you see them moving forward when they give these opportunities to read more and more books. The other thing I was thinking about, when I first started my book baskets, I was putting books in there that were not familiar, but were at their independent level, and then I was also putting some in there that were the next level, that were a little bit more challenging for them to try to use some of those strategies and those kind of things. When I went back to look during one of our PLCs, most of the books that are in your reading basket should be at their independent level, because you really want them to, that confidence, You don't want them to be struggling because that's when the classroom management problems happen and those kind of things. So what I've tried to do in my baskets that we're shopping for, they have the guided reading book in there that we're working on in a guided reading group also, which is going to be instructional. And then they're going to have those other books from their shopping that are books that they have chosen that are on their independent level. So just taking away from that, most of those books need to be books that they're not going to struggle with. They can work on, you know, the fluency and confidence in reading those books.
Okay, I think we have time for a couple more questions and comments. How have you seen your teaching practices change because of the reading units of study?
I was actually talking about this earlier, that there have been things that I just didn't explicitly teach because I just kind of assumed they would pick up on them as we went along. And one of the lessons that we taught was when they turn the page, they say, and then, because it connects the pages together. And all the story makes a story. I mean, all the pages of the book make a story together. So I think just stepping back and realizing that those little things that we haven't explicitly taught, she has lessons for all of them. And watching it build and watching them use the strategies is pretty powerful. The fact that they're actually, they understand now, and so when I say, and what do you say when you turn the page, they'll say, and then, because they go together. So I think, like personally, knowing all those things now, I'm just more aware of those little lessons that really need to be taught. So,
I was going to say, for a long time, I've taught Writer's Workshop, and I've followed this model in Writer's Workshop, but I never thought that my kids could follow the same model in Reader's Workshop, that they would have a mini lesson, that they would actually be able to read independently we've built our stamina to 15 minutes or so now, and then come back together for a share time in reading. And I never gave myself the opportunity to try that. I do a workshop model in writing, I do a workshop model in math, and it's just as successful in reading. And Lucy kind of helps you by laying out those lessons for you. And we know it's good stuff.
What kind of successes have y'all seen with your students with this model?
I feel like my kids are more excited about reading than they ever have been. They cannot wait for shopping day. They cannot wait to talk with their partners about their books, and they're even recommending books to each other. And one thing Chris and I think we were all talking about the other day, our kids shopping for books, how some of the books that they're seeing are series, or they have like familiar characters, and so they've seen, oh, I read this book about Sally. I want to see if I can find another book about Sally. So I just think for me, their excitement for reading, and I really have kids say, you know, when the time, because I have to set a timer to keep me on track, but when the timer goes off, they're like, oh, I'm not ready to go to my partner, you know, to talk yet, or oh, is it time to come back to the carpet? And so I think when we talk about that first unit, how it said we're setting them up to know that they can read and to love to read, I really feel like that's something we've done.
I have been so excited to see the growth in the language that they're using when I'm conferencing. I don't think I had seen that in previous years like I have seen it this year implementing that. They are taking the language, and then I am seeing it and I'm hearing it when I'm conferencing with them. They are using the language from the mini lesson and talking with their partner or talking to me when I come to conference with them. So that has been an area of growth that I've seen in my kids for sure.
I take the time to go down and assess some of the kids because I'm just so excited about what I see and hear from them, and that's my opportunity. And what's interesting is the kids come ready to tell me what they're reading. You used to ask a kindergartner, they really couldn't tell you what they were reading. They also go, oh, am I getting ready to go to, they're aware of levels, they're aware of their growth and what they're trying to reach. But I want to extrapolate it outside of school a little bit and talk about our parents. Our parents have noticed a difference and are asking us about that and are communicating that and are excited. And that's just really changing the culture of our whole building when everybody's doing this together.
Okay, we have time for one more question from live chat, and then we'll wrap our panel up and then go on to the next section of our training. How many books go home with students, and what do you send them home in?
hesitate because I don't know if this is the right answer. That's right. Well, the books that go home with my students are the 1 or 2 books that we've worked on in our guided reading group. Those are the ones that I'm sending home in they're in a baggie, and the baggie says their name, and on the bottom it says, please return tomorrow, and inside it is a log with the book title and just a parent signature to let me know that they read it with their parent. I think that those books that are on their instructional level are important for those to go home for parents to see, what kind of strategies they're trying to use and those kind of things. And also, with the books that are leveled that they're shopping for right now, I want to make sure that those stay in their baskets and they have the opportunity to see them every single day. And with the guided reading books, if the books that I'm sending home, parents don't have time to read them that night, or they stay home an extra day, then that's one less book that they're going to have in their basket. And so I want them to have those independent levels in their basket. So to answer the question, 1 to 2 books per week in a reading bag with a parent signature sheet for a return.
Okay, thank you ladies so much. I know that will help all the teachers who are getting ready to start the new unit in May. All those tips and advice I'm sure will go well heeded. So we will get ready for the next portion of our training. So we'll probably take a minute or so if you all want to mute out there while we get set up for the next portion. Thank you guys.
Really fast with this last section to try to get you out of here, and this will all be available to you. Charlene has created a Google Classroom, and to join the Google Classroom, here's the code, and this Google slide will be uploaded to that, and she occasionally uploads things that are pertinent to our study. So that will be very important for you to have access to. And that at the end of today, the last slide of this presentation has a survey, a reflection that we'd like your honest feedback. If you could do that as quickly as possible before you leave today. So I'm going to go through some really quick, some things we thought might help you get started with this process. Just kind of like nuts and bolts. Logistical things. First thing, let's talk about our implementation timeline. We're doing PD right now. As soon as testing is over, you will all start Unit 1. Your TOSAs will be available to support you. If you need us, let us know. We will be there. We can come to PLCs, planning times, faculty meetings. You can just call us up on the phone and vent for a little bit if you need to. Whatever you need, we're here for you. This summer, we have 3 days of PD offered for you. We're calling it structured planning time. You may come with your grade level or come by yourself, come for 1 day, come for all 3 days. What we will do on that day is each day we'll review and discuss what worked well when you tried out the units. We will spend most of the day planning your first fall unit. TOSAs will be available to support you and your team as you go through this process. And the teacher will have opportunities to participate in little mini workshops that Charlene's going to do that will be offered throughout the afternoon if you choose. That's, the day will kind of be up to you. If you just want to sit in here and plan with your team or plan by yourself. If you want to go to a little mini workshop with Charlene, you can. If not, not. If it's okay with your principal, you can get flex hours for this. It will be June 19, 20, and 21. Like I said, you can come for 1 day, you can come for all 3 days, whatever works for you. We want this to be very, very responsive to your needs. And you don't have to sign up, just show up in room 100 right here, and we'll get it started. Next thing I want to talk about is curriculum calendar. Oh, can we go back to the timeline? August, when you come back to school, that first week, we'll have a day of literacy with you all. And we're not sure what the content will be. The TOSAs are going to be going to study at the Teachers College this summer. So we're going to be learning some stuff to try to stay a step ahead of you all and be supportive. And then based on your reflection and feedback, we'll determine that content. And then the 27th, this next coming school year, 2017-2018, we will expect that you are delivering 45 minutes per day of reading workshop in the Teachers College model, that you're following our district provided curriculum calendar, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. There will be continued PD on those designated PD days for you, some half day, some whole day. And we'll let you know the content of that as soon as we know it. We're trying to leave the content open because we really want to be responsive to what you need. And again, your TOSAs are available for you in whatever capacity you want us. If you want us to come in and co-teach with you, do a coaching cycle, just sit in on your PLCs. If you want to just us to come to a planning time and you vent or talk about your frustrations, whatever you need, email. We are an email or a phone call away, and we're here to support you. Let's look at the curriculum calendar for kindergarten. You're going to teach units 1, 2, 3, and 4 in order. Okay, we're not going to use the if-then curriculum until the end. We want you to know these units really well and get good at them before we start adding in other things. We have an estimated schedule. In kindergarten, we have heavily padded the first unit because we know that you're going to have to teach those structures and routines. That is really, really important. And really, kindergarten teachers, it's really important. You're setting the expectation for students of how their reading instruction will be from kindergarten all the way up, possibly to 8th grade. So we've really padded those times. We would ask that you stay as close to the times as possible, but we understand we're all learning here, so do what you need to do. If you need supplements to the Teachers College units, you have your Springdale units. If you can use those for small group lessons, if you need to. If you finish a unit early, you can go back and use those. Every school will be getting 2 copies of this reading strategies book and 2 copies of this writing strategies book. These are fantastic. The author of this was a staff developer at Teachers College. If you want to know, if you have a problem or you have a kid that needs reteaching, you can look up in the table of contents and go right to a little mini lesson. So these will be available to you at your schools. You can go back and read this more closely. We've linked in suggested writing. We're not adopting the Teachers College writing this year, so we'll continue to use our Springdale units. We have gone in and tried to make them more Teacher College-like, and we've added a couple units. So those are links in there. The expected assessments, that not every assessment that the district expects of you, but that are related to the reading units of study, we've put those in there. So that is the curriculum calendar for next year. Structures and routines. We have gone through chapter 8 that talks all about that, and we've tried to just get to the meat. What do you need to do for a mini lesson? Have you assigned partners and triads? Do you have assigned spots at the meeting area? Do you have transition signals to and from the meeting area? We've tried to parse this out so you can use this to plan. What do I need to make sure my students know and I have a plan for as we go through the workshop? And you can go back and read that. We won't spend time reading it. Architecture of a workshop. We put this in here to help you plan. And you can make a copy of this and use it however you would like. For each part of the mini lesson, we've tried to put little snippets here that will guide you. This could be a planning tool for you. We've tried to parse out what the teacher should be doing during independent reading time, what the students are doing, and then a spot for the mid-workshop teaching and the share. That's one version. There's a second version that goes in a different direction if you like this layout better. So we've put two layouts in there for you. You don't have to use them, just in case you would like to. They're there for you. Correlation chart for leveling libraries. I'm sure many of you have seen this. This is the deal about correlation charts. They are never going to be perfect. You should have seen the week we worked on these. We had papers everywhere. We looked at every person that ever did a correlation chart ever. We tried to find the best one that was based on actual reading of books, not just assigning a correlation. It's okay that they're not perfect because your students are reading in bands. So that should take care of any discrepancies. This will fix itself as we all migrate to BASS. When we all migrate to BASS and our libraries are all leveled with the F and P letters, this will take care of itself. But until then, we have this correlation chart. So if your library is still labeled with AR levels or DRA levels, you can use this correlation chart. And we put the charts that we used to do this correlation. But I know they're not going to be perfect, okay? And also, when we're talking about those bands, let's not be crazy about these kids reading at a certain level. If they want to read a book that's beyond their level and they're passionate about that, let them read the book. We want them to love books. Let's not get all, super strict about these levels. Yes, we want them to read in that band. That's the best for them, to grow them as readers. But if they really want to read a book below or above, let's let them do that. And we don't want to, if a kid wants to read a book, that is a good thing. Let's not worry about that band that much. Okay, on to their book baggie, student shopping guide. A lot of these can be posted in your classroom. I've made 2 on one sheet if you want to make half copies for kids to keep in their reader's notebook. book baggie magic numbers. When we were at Shaw and Sonora walking around, we saw these posted in every classroom library. So the kids would know what their levels were and how many books they needed depending on that level. But as you shared with us, this may be in the future. We may have to, we may not be able to get 10 to 14 books yet, but we will. We will. Okay. Characteristics of text level bands. You will eventually, probably in 2 or 3 years, be very expert at what every band means. What kind of text is at that band? This will get you started. Okay, this will be your cheat sheet. Benchmark criteria for independent reading levels. There are, just like there's lots of different correlation charts, there's lots of thoughts about what does independent level. Is it 94%? Is it 98%? Is it 96%? We're going to go with the benchmark criteria for independent reading. So if they're in levels A through K, to be independent, they need to be reading with a 95% to 100% accuracy. So this is what we'll go with. Next is, are we still doing guided reading? This is probably the question we get the most. And so we've put together information about this. You will look in Chapter 9, is in the Guide to Readers Workshop for all the information you need about conferring with students. So the short answer is yes, you may do guided reading, but you also may do a small group strategy lesson. You may also be one-on-one conferring. Guided reading is a tool. It is not the only tool in the box. So you need to be responsive to your children. And Richard Allington has a great quote, if you will scroll down a little bit here. He says, most teachers who lead small groups have only one format for how those tend to go. The irony is that the biggest reason to work with small groups instead of the whole class is precisely so that we can tailor our teaching to our students. So what would be the reason for anyone thinking that the right way to lead small groups is to do the same thing in every small group? So you're going to have to make a decision. Does this group of children need a heavily scaffolded guided reading? Or do they need just a quick strategy lesson and they're on their way? So the key word is responsive. Being responsive to the needs of your kids. So you may do guided reading, but you may do other things instead or as well. There are some troubleshooting guides here. We'll just quickly look at that. Okay. So there'll be a red flag situation. If you see this, here are some things you can do. And then the last one, alignment. So the reading units of study mini lesson, the Arkansas standard that it covers, and then where if you need some extra support, where that is in Springdale units. So you've got where it is in RUOS, where it is in Springdale, and the standard it covers. Okay, that was fast. This will be in your Google Classroom for you to look back over. We tried to think of all the little nitty-gritty things that you might need to know to get started. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to email us. We are here for you. Any questions so far? Any questions? Okay. I will turn this over to, I don't know who. Who's next? I will turn this over to, it looks like Dr. Morledge is winning the prize. Or no, it's Charlene.
Let's see. All right. I understand we are over your time and you're ready to get back to
doing this job. I just want to close with reading achievement. Where a big conversation is about how do we close this achievement gap, and to close a reading achievement gap starts with reading. Seems so logical, doesn't it? So that's what we're doing. We're working to close that reading achievement gap, and we're doing that by reading. So that's where I'm going to close it, and then I'm going to pass it to Dr. Morledge. Thank you.
And I want to thank everybody for your hard work this morning. Every time I looked up, the heads were down. Y'all were all working really hard today, so thank you. This is not always an easy setting for our schools that are here. You feel like you're in a fishbowl, but you did a great job, and I thank you. For everyone else out there, I thank you for your hard work this morning. I am so excited about thinking about how we're going to change the way we teach reading in this district, and about how many more kids are going to be reading even better, because we know, this sounds so silly, but it's profound, that the more a child reads, the better reader that child becomes. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to what we're going to do. Thank you very much.
To be